So, over the weekend, I was refereeing for the BCJJF. I was refereeing these brown belt lightweights. The one there in the blue, I believe, is from a Gracie Baja club in the United States. The other fellow in the white, I believe that's Morgan Littlechild. I've refereed for him a few times. Scrappy dude. Anyway, you can see they're bent over. Very likely someone's going to be pulling guard. Generally at this weight, it's a higher percentage path to points and victory by guard pulling than it is by takedowns, because the leg strength to body weight ratio is more conducive to sweeping than throwing. Anyway, that being said, these guys are latched on to one another, and so far nobody has pulled guard. As I recall, I was considering penalizing them for lack of combativity, but they're not really stalling, they're not really displaying a lack of combativity yet. I'll try and let it go for, maybe a minute or two. Sometimes I'll stop a match and tell both guys, maybe I won't even penalize them, I'll just say, hey, let's not leave this up to me, because referees' decisions are always, they give a bad taste in your mouth. It's better to win by, submission, or at least fight, don't let the whole match go by and do nothing, And that's what I'm thinking of right now as I'm watching these two fellows do nothing. Although it's not really nothing, they're, gripping each other and looking for little advantages here and there, but nobody's really attempting any takedowns. It's more establishing a grip fighting dominance from which you can then attempt either a takedown or a guard pull or what have you. And like I said, for this weight, usually people are pulling guard. The heavier people get, there you go, there's a guard pull. And it's a good guard pull. You see he pulls full closed guard. Sometimes I see people pull sitting guard, or they pull open guard. And, if your guard is good, okay, fine. But generally, you want to pull a guard that contains the person in a way. Like here, he pulled, like I said, full closed guard. Although now he's opening it up and looking for other stuff, as is Morgan on top there. And I am observing. Again, nobody's gotten any points because that was a clean pull, no takedown attempt. Looks like Morgan's going for a footlock here. Straight Achilles lock, maybe switching to a toe hold. The other fellow's rolling. And remember, when you go for a footlock, if you go from top to bottom, the other fellow scores 2, which I believe is what occurs here. See? I award the 2, and I award the 3 for a pass, because he went from top to bottom and got around Morgan's legs, so now it's up 5-0. I should mention at this event, if you can see on the scoreboard there, Morgan's he's going for a footlock again, and the other guy's going for his own footlock. So the fellow in blue was up 5-0 from side control. And again, now we're looking for footlocks and stuff. It's a matter of who comes out on top. And the fellow in white there doesn't seem to be too concerned about coming up on top as it is sealing the deal on the guy. You see some people who are points aware. That would be, there's 2 for Morgan there. Because again, he was on the bottom. Now he came up on top. He started side control or whatever. Looks like I gave an advantage to the fellow in blue for his footlock attempt. But, like I was saying at this event, if you can see on the scoreboard there, they divided between yellow and blue. And I believe for this one, blue corresponds to the guy wearing the blue kimono, and yellow is for the fellow in white there. It's funny, I didn't tell them to stop here. Morgan just on his own just moved them to the middle of the mat, which is nice to see. Anyway, like I said, normally the scoreboard is reflective of green and yellow as it corresponds to my wristband, but for some reason for this one they made it blue and yellow, which led to a certain level of confusion, It doesn't sound confusing, of course, but bear in mind when you've been refereeing all day, watching people tumble with one another, you want it to be as simple as possible, and to have color variation between the scoreboard and your wristband and what people are wearing certainly leads to confusion. Anyway, the fellow in blue, I believe, still has 5 points. The fellow in white, I believe, has 2. I think the fellow in white also has an advantage for a footlock he did. And I am walking about seeing what's going on here. Oh, there's someone with a camera in the way, so we can't see what's going on. Get out of the way, homie. You know, you would think that... oh, he's going... You can see Morgan's going for a footlock again there. Can you seal the deal on the fellow? Yep. I don't exactly know what kind of footlock he's trying there, but he's definitely trying one. And his hair's all over the place, too. Yeah. I don't know if I could grapple with long hair. I used to have a ponytail when I did Taekwondo, but then I switched from Taekwondo to Hapkido, which had some grappling in it, and I shaved my head on my first or second day. Anyway, I'm telling him to get his hair back in order, you know, and people are getting their kimonos back together. He's getting his hair tie, you know. I believe I tell this fellow to get his belt and gi tied and whatnot. Oh, yeah, I'm giving him an advantage, I believe, for a footlock. Even though I don't really know what... Staring at the video here, I don't exactly know what kind of footlock he was doing, but I think he went for an Achilles lock there and had a pretty deep Achilles lock. But, yeah. Anyway, I'm restarting them in the same position that they wound up in, even though that one fellow was obstructing my camera or whatever. So the fellow in white goes back into the guard of the fellow in blue. I start the match again. Generally, when I'm restarting a match, I'll say, do we agree on this position? And then, regardless of what they say, I say fight, you know, so I don't have time to argue, you know. Anyway, I'm looking over to make sure no one's stealing my camera, because it's a Cisco flip, and it cost me $50 some years ago. And the fellow in white, again, he is very likely looking for a footlock, or attempting to... Oh, there he's attempting a pass. Yep. Fellow in blue has a... I don't want to call it a half guard. It's kind of half guard, but it's sort of a Z guard. He still has his shins in the way, you know. You can get an advantage for establishing a dominant half guard from top, but that involves having an underhook on the guy's head and also an underhook around his arm. If the guy's using his half guard in any offensive way, then the fellow on top will not receive an advantage, because the advantage for half guard is a subcategory of guard passing. So if the half guard is used as a, and then you get, you know, you don't pass, you get back in the guard again. Then you get an advantage for almost passing. But if the guy's using his half guard below you to give you all kinds of problems, then you don't get the half guard advantage for almost passing, because you didn't almost pass. You are defending half guard sweeps and whatnot. You can see the fellow in white here is certainly attempting to pass, but he doesn't have an arm under the head of the fellow in blue there. And now he's looking for arm lock, wrist lock, which are always, you know, a good idea because it's zero risk. If you get it, you win, and if you don't get it, the guy in the bottom doesn't receive anything, you know? So I'm a big proponent on attacking in this particular way. I mean, it is, yeah, strength-oriented, but everything's involving something, either speed or flexibility or what have you, you know? So whenever someone tells you in jiu-jitsu, oh, man, you need to be strong to do that, well, sometimes you need to be fast to do this, or flexible to do that, or wise to do this other thing. So people use the attributes they have. And here, fellow in white, Morgan, wins the match with a straight arm lock, wrist lock from top position. I believe he might have still been in his half guard. And there you go. So kudos to him, and you know, good job to the guy in blue as well. Anyway, that was the opening match for the two brown belts. And now we go on to the finals. I have moved my cool Cisco flip camera, and we are off to Morgan, having won that first match, moves on to fight in the finals. And I didn't referee this other fellow in the black in the open division. Maybe he got a bye to this. It's always nice to get straight into the finals, isn't it? Although he might have had someone earlier, I have no idea. Again, they're bent over. Oh, see, the guy just sits down. And that's, you know, if you want to pull guard that way, that's fine. You got to touch your opponent before you sit. I'm not a big proponent of sitting down and not getting any kind of purchase upon my opponent or what have you, but there's two, you see. He went from bottom to top, you know. For some reason, Morgan decided to sit down as well, and now the other fellow had some Korean name. He has two, you know, and he's in a really good position. I mean, he's not in any way caught in the guard. He's circling around to get some kind of hold, you know. I don't know if I've awarded him a guard pass yet, but I'll probably give it to him there. Yeah, there it is. There's the 3 for the pass. So now the fellow on top is up 5-0. And It's funny, I say sometimes to my students that, once you have some points on somebody, you don't have to really worry about being penalized all that much, because under IBJJF rules, mount is 4, passing is 3, and you don't get penalized for points until the third occasion. First it's a verbal penalty, then it's penalty advantage to the opponent, and then it's penalty 2 to the opponent. So if you've passed the guard, you have 3, you can get penalized for stalling 3 times before your opponent is even awarded 2. And by my math, 2 is less than 3. And of course, on a 4th penalty, you get disqualified and kicked out. But my point is, until you reach that 4th penalty, the penalty for penalties is not very penalizing, so to speak. Anyway, the guy on top is in north-south, and the fellow on the bottom is really giving him some game in terms of trying to escape. Again, there's a big difference between stalling and defending. And if you have side control on a guy and he's thrashing around like a swordfish in a canoe. Not that you would catch a swordfish in a canoe, but if the guy's flipping around on the bottom and you're just holding him, that's not stalling. That's defending his escape. And here the fellow on the bottom, you can see he's really trying to escape. And the guy on the top, he's holding him down and pursuing what appears to be what I call a paper cutter choke, where you descend with the forearm across the throat and whatnot. So, as the referee, I'm watching this thinking, this dude is not stalling, but if the fellow on the bottom were to stop thrashing about, and if the fellow on top were to stop attempting that choke, that would be perhaps a kind of stalling, And now he's going to knee on belly. You can see he's looking at me. He's looking for the 2, which is always a good idea. You can't talk to the referee, but when you get a position, look and see if you are being awarded the points. You can even give him a look of confusion. Raise an eyebrow and be like, what do you, don't talk to him though. You cannot talk to the referee under IBJJF rules. You will be penalized for that, And anyway, the fellow in black now I think has 7 points. I think he got 2 for going from bottom to top, which I guess would be called a sweep, even though it didn't look too sweepy to me. And then he got 3 for passing guard, and I believe he just got 2 for knee on belly. And very likely there's another knee on belly. And again, very low risk. But, you put points on the board, and that points are worth something, It's funny, sometimes you will hear a coach yell at somebody, you have to submit him. But the person to whom they're yelling is in a very disadvantageous position. If somebody's up 16-0 and they're mounted on you, the person with the 16 points and the mount is in the position from which they can attack a submission, but they might not have to because they're up 16 points, and the fellow who is mounted, his coach is yelling, you gotta submit him, but he's mounted, he can't submit the guy, if he could, he would have done it before getting the 16 points scored against him. Anyway, they're back to standing, and I believe someone's gonna pull guard, like I said, at lightweight, or featherweight, or rooster weight, or whatever, where people basically weigh nothing and a light breeze can, see there? The fellow in the black there. Not only does he pull, I don't know if he swept him there or if Morgan's going for a footlock, but once again, if the guy in the black comes up, as he is there, it's not an advantage yet. Yeah, no. That's the 2 for the sweep, and I believe I gave him an advantage for almost a guard pass there. But if you go from bottom to top, that's 2 points. And if your opponent turtles, as long as you're behind their arm line, that qualifies, You can see the fellow in white here pursuing another leg lock, And fellow in black defending admirably. He has his foot behind Morgan's knee, so it's very hard to knee bar a guy when they have that position, And here I'm awarding him, I think I awarded him another 3 for passing, because that was a guard, When someone's utilizing their legs to defend themselves, that is a subcategory of guard, and when you escape from that, that's 3. So, starting side control. So I guess the moral of the story here is when you're falling back for footlocks, if you're not going to get it, come back on top. Because if he comes on top of you, that's 2, right? And Certainly don't let the guy get around your legs, because the referee might award you 3 for a guard pass. Might award them 3 for a guard pass. If you know what I mean. If you're going from your guard to a leg lock to them passing. Here you can see the guy. He had knee on belly for a second, but it wasn't 3 seconds, so I just gave him an advantage. And here he's moving to north-south, you know. Again, the fellow in white, you know, trying his darndest to escape, so the guy on top just has to hold him down. And that does not qualify as stalling or passivity, you know. Like I said, if the guy is thrashing about like a fish in a boat, like this, man, that's not stalling, that's just holding him down. So sometimes it is a better idea as the person on the bottom to do totally nothing. And then the onus is upon the person on top to advance their position. And you, as the person on bottom, know the onus is upon them to advance their position. And you know what positions are better, and you can put up a barrier to intercept them as they attempt to advance. But it's not really what's happening here. He's still looking for leg locks. And he's here maybe looking for a knee bar, you know. Am I awarding points for a pass here or an advantage? No, I don't think I am. You know, it's funny. It's subjective how some referees will consider, you know, this is a subcategory of guard and this is not, you know, because what is and isn't guard is subjective. You know, that's why they have, in big matches, they have the middle ref and they have the 2 guys at the corner. And sometimes they'll throw up, one guy will throw up 2 points, one guy will throw up an advantage, and one guy will say that's nothing, you know. And they can each have supporting points to support their opinion. You know what I mean? And also bear in mind, when you've been refereeing all day, you know, your head can just be, you can be, you know, all scrambled after you've refereed a couple hundred matches. So if someone's got their legs in the way and then suddenly someone has side control, maybe you're throwing up the 3, you know what I mean? Anyway, the moral of the story is, if you're a leg locker, be aware that if you're screwing up your leg locks and the guy you're going from top to bottom, or if the guy's passing your guard or getting around your legs as a result of leg lock attempts, he's going to be getting points. And he's going to be in a position from which it might be kind of hard to escape, you know? And like I said before, usually it's the person who's up on points who's in a position to score a submission, but they don't need the submission. They're up on points. And usually it's the person who's down on points in a disadvantageous position who needs to score a submission to win, but they can't because they're in a disadvantageous position. See there, I'm going to give the 3 for that. See, that's a guard pass. And, you know, they throw the beanie ball and the match is over, you know. And, you know, it was a hell of a fight. But the way IBJJF rules are shaped, you know, the fellow in white went from top to bottom once or twice. And the fellow in black, you know, got some points for knee on belly and for guard passing and whatnot. And there you go. So, good job, everybody. Everybody gets a hug. And if you have a match that I've refereed and you want me to narrate it, email it to jeffjitsu@hotmail.com.